beginner. All my good works are needles in hay, and I try to do right based on my own sight, just like a blind man who's standing in the way. And all that I've taken, it was sadly mistaken to bleed for my own, for my sake. Now everything I have was stolen or borrowed. All that I've taken is much more than I can take. I was a fool in the quickness of the sand. I was a leper trying to save my own skin. But now I'm a man who knows where I stand. On the rock of ages, that's where I stand. Lord, you bore my refuse. You are my refuge. You gave up everything when you threw it all away. You gave me life new. You carried my weight through the evening to the morning and to the day. I was a fool in the quickness of the sand. I was a leper trying to save my own skin. But now I'm a man who knows where I stand. On the rock of ages, Jesus, that's where I stand. On the rock of ages, Jesus, that's where I stand.
All photos. There we go. Now it works better when I do it the right way. Okay, so I have the information here. Everybody took the cards, so I don't have no cards. Men, if you want to show up there, it's July 20th, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And of course, that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours from here, so we'll have to kind of cruise over to do that. And then we'll come back off that. Again, tomorrow is the last day to sign up for the discounted price of $25 with a t-shirt or $15 without a t-shirt. So if you don't want a t-shirt, pay less. Works out like that. If you want a t-shirt and you wait till after tomorrow, then the price goes up by $10. So, and $5 if you still go without the shirt. So I guess it's like $10 more for the shirt. I don't know how it works. They got it figured out. We don't. Hey, they're going to have breakfast there from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. Now, simultaneously, and I guess I don't have that one here, is the women's leadership thing that's happening in Houston. So if somebody wants to go to that, fantastic. If not, but see Jennifer try to figure that out because she's trying to figure out if she's going to go, plan go, or whatever like that. She'd rather not travel alone, which I understand makes sense to me. You want to go to Houston? She goes, no, who wants to go to Houston? So anyways, what? I'm just pointing to people. Who's to Houston? You're going to Houston? She goes, yeah, let's go. Anyways, she's like, you can be dishing out coffee that day. Like, uh-oh. I doubt anybody wants coffee in July. Anyways, most people don't want coffee in July. How about that? Anyway, so there's that stuff coming up. And otherwise, Sunday mornings we are in the book of 2 Peter. And you guys know that. So we're all good to go. We're all caught back up and everything's happy. We are in the book of Job. And we are in chapter 2. And for some reason, I hadn't turned it back over. And my ribbon's not in its right place, which makes it a little bit more difficult. The Bible pages are so thin, you just grab a little bitty bit and it flips 1,000 pages. All right, made it back to Job 1. Guess I'll put my ribbon here so I don't lose that. I used to have a piece of paper, but where'd it go? Anyways, Job chapter 2. Last week, if you remember what happened to Job? Satan went to talk to God. God said, have you considered my servant Job? And Satan's like, dude, I got this, no problem. He's going to curse you to your face. You'll be fine. Satan goes push on Job. All his children are dead. All of his animals are gone. Just everything's devastated. The only thing left basically is Job and his wife. So you think, man, that was a pretty big deal. That was a pretty hard situation. And so we left off with that point. And in that last part of that, what did Job say? He had really honestly had the best thing about it. He says, to looking back, and this is not going to come up, but just looking back in chapter 1, verse 20, it says, then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head and fell on the ground and worshipped. And he said, naked I came from my mother's womb, naked shall I return. The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin or charge God with wrong. So, 3 servants survived. So, but for the most part, everything they had, they lost. And so I want you to think about that for just a second. In the situation, the scenario where they are, Job and the wife of Job, we don't have her name. Maybe her name's Barbara, we don't know. Just like pick a name, go with it, I don't know. But Job and the wife of Job are now kind of alone. All the things that they had are gone. As I was thinking about this, and I was trying to really kind of put this into my head, and I've gotten some of the weirdest inspirations, like this actually makes it make more sense. The frustration of Job, this has got to be a tough situation. It's not that he lost a kid, he lost 10. It's not that he lost some animals, he lost them all. It's not that, the dude just lost everything. And God said that you can't touch Job, but hey, the rest of it's up for good. Now we remember that Satan did not touch Job's wife. And of course, if you were to listen to the comedian Tim Hawkins, he would tell you that that's a very funny thing. But I think the reality of it is that when a husband and wife get married, they become one flesh. And so by that reasoning, Satan could not touch the wife of Job. So there you go. There is all of it in basically a big, crazy nutshell. And so you think, well, it can't get any worse, right? Yeah. Oh, wait, there's more. So Satan's attempting to really just cause problems. God gives Satan permission to do so much, but within limits. And you think, wait a second, that could happen to me. And that's true. It could happen to us. It happens like that. As we go through this passage today, and I'm not going to read it and then recover, we're just going to kind of plow through it. It moves too many directions. I didn't feel right doing that, so that's the reason we're doing it that way. It's only 13 verses today, so it's real small, but it still has some movement inside of there that I didn't think was responsible to kind of come through and do this, because there's a punctuation at the end of this that goes, wait a second, it's really the setup for the entire rest of the book. So what we'll see here is Satan goes back to visit God, and there is a little bit more leverage that he can push Job a little bit further. He does so, and then now it's like, this has been too much. I can't take it. It's way too far. But that doesn't come from Job. That comes from the wife of Job. And when we get there, we'll understand it, and it'll make sense to us. A lot of people criticize Job's wife. A lot of people criticize a lot of things in the Bible. What we fail to remember is that these are people. These are the events of the people in their lives going through things. And when things happen to us, it's real and it hurts. I know what most of you are thinking, we've never gone through anything difficult. Never had anything devastating happen, right? Oh, that's fine. Wait, your time's coming, right? Probably not to the same level Job had. If you'll recall, Job has been really awesome, a super great guy, and he's been somebody who serves God. But he's also got a little bit of a pride issue in there. We're not going to discover that till later all the way, but I want you to remember that even the best, most awesome-looking Christian, they have chinks in the armor. And here's the reality of it. Satan looks for those weaknesses, and Satan will come after that. Say, wait a second, little o me, little o you. Sorry about that. There is weakness in Job, and of course, God says, well, here, go after it and do what you can. But what Job doesn't realize yet is God's going to absolutely bless Job over this whole situation. Even though it sounds really bad, it's horrible, Job had the right attitude, had the right heart, had the right mindset, but he still had some learning to do. He still had some growing to do. We'll find this later in the chapter also, that he has 3 friends, and if you had friends like this, you would try to lose all your friends. I'm telling you right now, it's just how it works. They're great guys, bad advice. That's just kind of how it works. All right, to begin, let's just read the first 2 verses here. Look at this. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan also came among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said to Satan, "From where have you come?" Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down on it." So it kind of sounds like we're back in chapter 1, doesn't it? It's like the same thing over again. Well, no, this is just to show you, to give us this illustration, to make us understand that it's not a one-off. This is not a one-off event. This is things that happen. Things that happen then can still happen today. Just want to throw this out there as an idea so that you can see that. And like when all the things come down, when all the things come crushing, when all the things are just absolutely devastating, it's like, well, maybe Satan had some involvement in that. Well, maybe he did. I'm not going to promise you that's what the situation is, but there's a likelihood of it. It could have been that you've done it to yourself, but if you're like Job and you're trying to serve God, trying to do the right thing, and just bad things happen, like what's going on, just understand that those challenges and those testings may come. I think it's also interesting to note that Satan has the ability to go and talk with God. That's got to make you nervous. We say he was a fallen angel, right? That's true. But most people picture Satan as living in some little burning pit dungeon area with a spiky tail, a pitchfork, and red pajamas, right? You know the devil I'm talking about. He's on the side of a can of tuna, things like that. Do they still have that tuna? I don't know if they do or not. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. It's older people like, we know stuff, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, but there's that imagery, like the little horns, the red pitchfork, the red pajama suit, whatever like that, and that's Satan. But that's so not Satan. Satan's not trapped in hell. He will be. He's not. If you can think of it like just a beautiful being, amazing. He's the worship leader, no pressure, but he was the worship leader of heaven, and kind of messed it up. You know what I'm saying? Ashley and I were talking about worship can go wrong, right? We just don't even think about it. But worship can go wrong, and it did for Satan because he was supposed to be the worship leader trying to do the right thing. And then, he still influences today. If you think about it, if you really look at it and say, wait a second, wow. And there's plenty of people who've come along and just like embraced what Satan did rather than praising God. It's like, wow. One of the things that moves everybody is music. And I'm not going to harp on rock and roll music or anything like that because it's country music. It's every music, it's across the board, man. I don't think there's a genre untouched to include Christian music where Satan has influence. It's interesting to think about. Look in the music industry and see a lot of the satanic stuff. And now there's a lot of them lately that's been wearing red horns and pajamas, and they're like, oh, come on, guys. How do you honor your God? Apparently you dress like you think they look. I don't know. I'm not walking around in robes because Jesus did. But if I did, everybody would appreciate it, right? Sandals, open toes. She's like, absolutely, we need to do that. So if you think about it, it's kind of weird to think, but Satan's not in hell. Satan is still active. Satan is still functional, and he can do the things that he desires to do within God's allowing the things to happen. Job wasn't here for this conversation. Somehow this got written down, right? And somebody says, well, maybe Job did it. Maybe God showed Job what happened. But I'm telling you right now, Job was not here for this conversation. He was not in the throne room talking with God, listening to Satan and God have this conversation and saying, because had he heard this, he might have been like, hold on a second now. He might have begun trying to negotiate or trying to fix it or trying to do something, but wow. Listen to this conversation. It's going to take us a few verses to read through it, so we're going to read from 3 to 6, but listen to the conversation that happens. It's absolutely stunning. Verse 3, it says, "And the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil? He still holds fast his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him without reason." And then Satan answered the Lord and said, "Skin for skin. All that man has he will give for his life. But stretch out your hand and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face." And the Lord said to Satan, "Behold, he is in your hand, only spare his life." Imagine if you're Job, and you're eavesdropping into heaven, and you hear this conversation. What are you going to say? Whoa, hold on a second, guys. Let's put the brakes on this idea. Not a good idea. This is not, and we shouldn't, and that's where you think about what he's going to be doing, saying, and all that, and that's kind of the angle. That's the drive, and that's the area. Wouldn't you be doing the same? I would be doing the same for sure. And so if you see, God is obviously offering Job as a target for his torturous things that he's going to do, but look what God says about Job inside of that. In verse 3, he says this, he still holds fast his integrity. Hey, Job, or Satan, remember all that stuff that you did to Job? Killing everything off, causing all the damage, doing all that stuff? Didn't take him down, man. Satan, as awesome as he was trying, didn't do it. And God even threw in there, although you incited him against me to destroy him without reason. And if you'll remember, Job said, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away, blessed be the name of the Lord. Job understood that God allowed to happen what happened. And inside of that, he still didn't curse God. He still didn't just have any problems with God. He just accepted that God was God. Now, Job's got a big heart, and Job's an amazing person, and I would say far greater than probably most of us in here are. Would you agree? 100%, right? So just an amazing operation. He's absolutely just right there. But then Satan pushes it up a notch. Don't you like that? Now, yeah, nobody's going to like that. It's like they really like it. You know what I'm saying? Just some people. Anyways, Satan pushes it up a notch. And he says something. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a very true statement. He says it because he knows. He knows it because he's done it. This is his effective way to do the things that he does. Listen to this. He says, skin for skin, all that man has, he will give for his life. But stretch out your hand and touch his bone and flesh, and he'll curse you to your face. He can lose all the stuff he has. That's temporal. He understands that. You mess with him personally. And when I say personally, there's a sickness, there's a thing, there's whatever like that, something that physically happens to the man himself. When that happens, that's when you pushed it too far. You're done. You're over with. It's gone too far. He says that's what the setup is, and that's where we really need to be on this. And so you look at it, it's like that totally makes sense, doesn't it? Everything's fine and dandy until you got to go to the hospital about it. Everything's fine and dandy until you got to go see the dentist for an emergency, right? Everything's fine and dandy until it really hits home. And so Satan in that part is dead on right. The problem is he doesn't understand Job. How he doesn't understand Job is pretty simple if you think about it. Satan is not a man. Satan understands the division of understanding between the spiritual and the physical. And what person in their right mind would put up with the physical being completely in line with the spiritual and be okay with it? I'd say it's a pretty slim place, right? Very few people. So Job is a very unique person in that situation. Job is really amazing here. So to understand Satan, he goes right to work, doesn't he? Look with me in verses 7 and 8. It says here, so Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and struck Job with loathsome sores from the sole of his feet or foot to the crown of his head. And he took a piece of broken pottery with which to scrape himself while he sat in the ashes. From the feet, I'm not getting it, from the feet to the top of the head. There was not a place located on this young man where there wasn't a sore, with some kind of a thing. Now, you got your sunburn recently, and like you see that it's kind of like messed up. That ain't nothing. That ain't nothing. You go in those big old blisters, it gets big, pop, like that, and it stinks, it's itchy, it's all those things. You know what I'm talking about, right? Just on the regular flesh. Not even talking about the feet. The feet ones are worse. But boils, oh yeah. So Job has got all these nasty physical things. What's wrong? We should show pictures, but we don't have them, so work it with it. Skin affliction, skin's messed up. Boils, all the stuff. It looks hideous, right? Is it leprosy? I don't know. What is it exactly? Well, the Bible's not real clear about what exact disease it is, but we know it's a supernatural thing. Why? Because Satan did it to Job. It wasn't like he just like, all right, you're going to get the chicken pox, but this is chicken pox on steroids, right? And so he's got this rough piece of pottery to begin just like scratching and itching and stuff. I always, I'm one of these weirdos. You just got to know about me. I walk up to a door frame and I scratch my back. Anybody do that? Like everybody does that, right? Like, how far do you go before you just know you got to scratch? Like you just scratch. What have I got in my hand? And just get after it. You ever get those? Big old blister, big old something happens, and now you're just scratching away, and nothing makes it feel better. I mean, you can scratch it makes it a little bit better, but not enough to make you happy about it. And so this constant thing of going on. So, if we follow through in the text and we see all the things, this isn't a one-off occurrence. This goes on for a period of time. Potentially for months. that he's scraping and scratching at these horrible sores and all this stuff. We get pretty upset after day one. I have to go to the doctor and I get some ointment for this thing. There's no ointment for this guy, not for what he's got. Ain't no doctor can fix what's going on with him. It just isn't going to happen. So he is really, really messed up about this. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds pretty bad. I mean, who thinks that sounds like a fantastic thing, like a good time? Nobody? You guys are weak. Well, here's what it comes down to. That was the tip of the iceberg. Throughout the entirety, and this is where we're going to kind of get to see a little bit more of the book of Job tonight, but throughout the entirety of the book, he's constantly, he's thinking about this. It's going on. And we know it goes on for more than 7 days. And we'll see that. It'll make sense as we go through this. But this is going on for some time. It's not just a quick deal. But he starts kind of going over all these things. He's in absolute mental anguish, physical pain, just torture. I mean, like, you want to talk about bad as bad as bad as bad. This is the king level of that. So I'm going to read through you a bunch of verses. You can track along with me. They're going to come one after the other. But this is just going to talk about the things that are going on with them. So looking at Job chapter 30 and verse 17, see how we jump so far? It says, the night racks my bones and the pain that gnaws me takes no rest. Job 30 verse 30, my skin turns black and falls from me. My bones burn with heat. Job 7:5, my flesh is clothed with worms and dirt. My skin hardens, then breaks out afresh. Job 19 verse 20, my bones stick to my skin and to my flesh, and I have escaped by the skin of my teeth. Job chapter 30 verse 27 and 28. And if you guys want this, I'll print this off for you. It's a pretty interesting list though. But Job 30 verse 27 and 28, my inward parts are in turmoil and never still. The days of affliction come to meet me. I go about darkened, but not by the sun. I stand up in the assembly and cry for help. Job 16, verse 16. My face is red with weeping, and on my eyelids is deep darkness. Job 7:4. When I lie down, I say, when shall I arise? But the night is long, and I am full of tossing till the dawn. Job 7:14. When you then you scare me with your dreams and terrify me with visions. Job 19, verse 17, my breath is strange to my wife, and I am a stench to the children of my own mother. Job 9, verse 18, he will not let me get my breath, but fills me with bitterness. We hear that he's covered with boils, and it sounds bad, right? Is the picture any clearer yet? Is it any more? Are we any more able to understand this? That this isn't just a small thing. It is just racking his body with torture for a very long time. Not a short time, but a long, long time. And this is constant. It's nonstop. It's just like, oh, wow. So I was thinking about this, and it's just like, man, this isn't a small deal. Like I say, I get the weirdest inspiration. I saw this thing, and I actually saw it today, and it's how close and how recent it was. But there's a song, and I'm not going to go deep into the song, but it's interesting. You heard it, everybody in here has probably heard the song a time or two. But you hear it, and it's like the lyrics don't make sense. And it's like, well, it's just kind of a nonsense song. You know, it's like, it kind of does, but it's like all the dots don't really connect in it. They just don't connect. And they were talking to the guy who wrote the song, and they said, you know, so what's the song about? And he goes, it's really not about anything. It was just thoughts that were coming out of my head. We're playing the music, and he goes, and I was just saying stuff, you know. It's just like, he goes, I ad-libbed the entire song. And it sounds like it's kind of cohesive, but the cohesive thing is what? At the time when he did this, he was just fresh off the presses of a horribly painful divorce. He was fresh off the presses of basically losing everything that he thought was good in his life. And so all of these statements, which don't make a lot of sense, it's like there's kind of a flow to it. It kind of makes sense. But it's just like just rambling stuff off because it's like, And have you ever been frustrated to that point? Have you ever been so angry at that point? Or, just in one of those places, and you're trying to really process, you're trying to really deal with this stuff, man, and you just can't. I mean, everything bad's happened, and it's worse than you can even imagine. And you're just like, just one thought comes, and it's replaced with another thought. And none of it's positive. It's just torture and torment. When you're awake, you're thinking about it. When you're asleep, you're dreaming about it. And it's just that kind of level of badness. Are we getting there yet? We've all had something happen that was hard to deal with. At this level, I don't know. To be perfectly honest with you, the song I was talking about, I've always thought, it's kind of an interesting song. I like parts of it, and it's kind of cool, but never really understood it. And to find out today, of all days, that I'll never understand it because there's nothing there to understand, makes me appreciate the song that much more, because it's just the ramblings of a very angry person. And there's an energy in that song that it's like, this is a powerful energy in this song, and it's like coming off the emotion. You hear people who write out of emotion, singers, songwriters, if they write out of emotion, those songs go super far, and they really hit people right between the eyes, and it's good. Even what I perceive to be a nonsense song, and even the guy's like, it doesn't really make any sense, because the song has a life of its own. It's just what it is. I think about that because I'm seeing the situation that's happening here. It's bad. It's not kind of bad. It's really bad. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say this again. The line of critics about Job's wife, it's a very long line. That woman, blah, 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 blah. And they just start talking all sorts of trash about Job's wife. You know what? I've done that too. But I'm telling you, as I've studied out for this, as I'm trying to teach Job as properly as possible, I have a compassion for Job's wife. Satan came to attack Job. We know that Job and his wife are one flesh. So Satan didn't just attack Job, did he? He also got Mrs. Job. Barbara, is that her name? We're going to give her a name. It helps out. Barbara's an older lady's name, so that's what we just say that. Anyways, so she is just as tortured, just as messed up as he is, if not worse. You say, if not worse, what? What do you mean? Ladies with children will understand this in ways that I can't understand this, and I'm a dad with kids. Ladies with children, those children are always a part of you. They never are not part of you. And just there's a connection that you can't, I don't understand it. Job's wife watched all of her kids gone. Yeah, they lost some stuff. The stuff's nothing, man. Stuff's replaceable. The kids? No way. That's not going to work out. She's about pushed her limits. She supported Job. She's helped Job out. She's raised kids, cooked for them. She's just been the backbone of a lot of things that have been happening around the house. She's been a highly functional person inside of that environment. And she was just as hurt, if not more, than Job was. And now Job's scraping stuff, and I'm telling you right now, it's ugly. It's bad. He even said his breath smells even. Just everything's bad. Everything's gone horrible on this thing. He is in rough shape. Being that the husband and wife are one flesh, I want you to understand something. When something bad happens to the husband, the wife is affected. It just is. When something bad happens to the husband, the wife has a different kind of emotion on that one, because that's part of her flesh. So now she's lost kids, all this stuff, but now she's watching her husband scraping stuff because he's just that bad. She's probably afraid to scratch the guy because, you know what I'm saying, didn't look good, man. She'd never go near his feet. You just know that. Anyways, so she's not one. I'm just like, this is a bad situation. Is it? Have we got it colored up as bad yet? Is it? Are we there yet? So now I think we can understand Mrs. Job in verse 9. I think we're ready to read it finally. Let's look at verses 9 and 10. Then his wife said to him, Do you still hold fast your integrity? Curse God and die. But he said to her, you speak as one of the foolish women who speak. Shall we receive good from God, and shall we not receive evil? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. The nerve of this woman, curse God and die. If all things come from God, I mean, that's the real logic, isn't it? What did Job say in chapter 1? The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. From that mindset, from that metric, as he's talking and she's hearing, and they chit-chat, they're not fiddling on phones or whatever, like they're actually talking and hey, you got to fly it on your camel. And so they have those conversations, stuff like that. Don't have tires, they have got hooves. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, so they're having to go through all those pieces and parts and the stuff that's going on. And so they communicate and they see this, they go this. And so everything's just hurting her. And she just finds like, this is it, man. If this is the God we serve. Now let me ask you a question. Is she giving up on God? Kind of. I would only say it to kind of, and here's why. When you're in a bad situation, you say things. And sometimes you say things that you don't mean. You say things that like, well, if I could just, and you've seen this time and again in your life, and you've been party to it. You've done it yourself. If that guy came over, I'd just beat the heck out of that guy and blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's had those conversations at some point. But like when the rubber meets the road, you're like, well, hold on a second. Let's talk about this. Because passion and emotion and stuff, when it rises up, I tell you right now, it controls you. Controls me. I'll see why it couldn't control you. Sometimes your emotions get the better of you. That never happens to young ladies, does it? Sometimes the emotions, don't ever agree with me on this one, guys. Just play it safe. Emotions can get the better of you. It tends to affect women more than men. It's not that it doesn't affect men, it does. Men go to anger, women go to different places. It's just what happens. You're more likely to get beat up by a guy. Actually, it's probably more likely to get beat up by your wife. I'm not sure how that... Anyways, she won't do any real big damage, though. Everybody's going to like, if you don't know, I'm just being humorous now. Work with me. Yes, be very nice, Oscar. Be very nice. People get emotional because they've been pushed too far. Listen, guys, we say things when we're in that heightened emotion state, don't we? Have you ever said anything you regret in a heightened emotion state? Almost every time. Does Job's wife seem more like a real person yet? Somebody who is really affected by something, somebody who went through something so difficult, so hard, so amazingly different, and I can't even communicate it to you. It's that bad. I'm surprised she didn't just like do something crazier. She couldn't pull out her gun, She can't do that. She ain't got one yet. She could pull out a stone and start beating people with it, right? Or, some kind of a stick or what have you. No gunpowder, no bullets. Anyways. But look at Job. See, here's what's really cool about this. She says what she says, and it's pretty, let's just be honest with you, that's pretty rough, dude. That's about as bad as you can go. Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die. She's not really wanting him to die necessarily, but that's the quickest way to pull him out of that pain, right? That's what she's basically saying. Just obviously this is from God and this, that, and the others. Just die. Not in like, I hate you, you piece of garbage. Not that way. Just more of a compassionate thing if you think about it. But then Job, I love this part. Because he knows Mrs. Job really well. Because then he says, but he said to her, you speak as one of the foolish women would speak. Shall we receive from God and shall not receive evil? Now, I don't think he spoke well there, but let's talk about the first part of that. You speak as one of the foolish women would speak. Did he call her names? No. He made an observation. He labeled the situation. You're speaking in a way that these foolish women would speak. Let's elaborate on that. Let's make something that's not written there, but it's kind of an understood, kind of an implied. You're speaking like these people. That's not you. That's not how you speak. That's not how you are. You've been with me for the long time. You've seen what we do. You know this. I realize this is probably the worst thing that could happen to me, and I'm going to be talking about it for the next however many chapters. I'm not going to shut up about this because it's that level of torturous. But you really speaking this way? Understand this. I don't know why I've got to go through this, but I know I've got to go through this. I don't know what God's doing this to me, but I know God's doing this to me. And that's kind of the conversation that you really hear going on in the background here. That's what's going on. That's what she's, as this is going back and forth. And so you know that Job understands that she's being pushed to the limits. He's trying to reel her back in. Yeah, this is real far. Yeah, this is a mess. Man, but, don't go there. I want to tell you something that you don't read in those, but you can see it in the overall theme of it. Job loves his wife. He didn't cuss her out and hit her and, drive his camel over her real fast. But he's out of camels anyways. When you're out of camels, you can't drive them anywhere, right? He was dealing with compassion with her. He understood that she was going through some tough stuff. He understood that the struggles were what were happening. He saw those things. And so it was easy for him to say, well, this is not good. This is a bad situation. He could go there. And he loves his wife. And he, it's like, man, I know this is bad. I know this is like the worst of the worst. Now, again, we're not through talking about the bad things that happen to Job. This is going to be basically, it's going to sit like this for a while. It's going to go on and on. You think a sunburn itchy itch is bad? It's not even close. It's a bummer though, isn't it? No fun. Times it by a bunch and then say, ooh, but then do that for like months. No, it's a tough time. Job's wife hurts for Job. Job hurts for Job. And Job, interestingly, hurts for his wife as well. I've seen many a times when a husband does something foolish and the wife pays the price. And so many times. And it's like, but it didn't happen directly to her. No, but again, that one flesh of marriage. If it happens to one, it happens to the other. If somebody hits my wife, they might as well have hit me because I'm going to feel it. It's just how it is. If she's afflicted with sickness, and of course you guys know she's not been well a lot, but she's actually gotten somewhat better, I would say, in more recent times. But you know how difficult it was to sit there and watch her just basically begin to fade off and just have all those problems? I mean, because I felt it. I felt it big time. And that was tough. It wasn't nearly what he's going through. But I understand that mindset. I understand the thing of watching the person you love going through something unbearable, something unreasonable, and something just horrible bad. And so I think I have a fair understanding of Job and his wife. Two people are just really trying to do right by God, and it just seems like nothing's working, man. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. I want to tell you that that's the worst part of the book of Job, and it's like all over now. It will be over by Job chapter 42, but not before then. Job's got some learning to do. He's got some growing to do. And Job's got some experience to have. Now, I want to tell you about the group that came to help old Job. And I know you guys are panicking because there's so many chapters. Don't panic about it. We're going to be blowing through them pretty quickly because we're going to go from situation to situation to get through them, and it's going to make total sense when we do it. But if you look here, Job has these three friends. Who in here has friends? Sometimes you wish you didn't, right? Sometimes those people just shut up and go away. You had those friends? Like all the time. And just shut up and go away. Well, this is a part that's entertaining to me. And we're going to be entertained by this through the majority of the book, his friends. But I want to introduce you to his friends. Let's meet these guys. Verse 11. Now, when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that had come upon him, they came each from his own place. Eliphaz, the Temanite, Bildad, the Shuhite, remember the shortest guy in the Bible, height of a shoe, there we go, and Zophar, the Naamathite. They made an appointment together to come and to show him sympathy and comfort him. And when they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him. And they raised their voices and wept and tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads toward heaven. And they sat down with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights. And no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great. Those are some unreal friends right there. What happens when your friends come over and bad things have happened? Tell me what happened. Tell me all about it. Let's relieve the pressure. Let's talk about it. Let's talk through this thing. This wasn't one of those situations where you want to talk about it. You just want to sit there and just like. When I get really angry or something really bad has happened, the last thing I want to do is talk. Most guys are like that. Ladies don't understand that. Like, what? And here we go, right? I say that not to be demeaning, but a lot of times that's happened. I've watched it. Some lady, everybody hits their certain points when you're done. You're not going to say another word. You're just done. I'm just done. That's not gender specific. But the majority of the time when something bad happens with a guy, they just like, and they just don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't even come near me. And if you think about the 3 friends of Job, that old short fella and the other 2, if you think about those guys and they came, these are friends like you don't even see or hear or whatever like that. They sit with him for 7 days. 7 days. Wow, man. I can barely get people to sit with me for 7 minutes. But for 7 days, and here's the wildest part, they kept their mouth shut. When I was training up to do the chaplaincy work, they kept pushing on me this idea, and I was like, such a difficult time really getting my head wrapped around it. And they call it the ministry of presence. Something bad's happened. Just the fact that you're there is everything. Right here in the book of Job. If you think somebody's gone through something really bad, and you're like, I've got to go fix it, I've got to go talk to him, I've got to go help him, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, scratch it. Don't do that. Go to the person, give them a hug, and just sit with them. Job's friends were amazing in that sense. They sat with him for 7 days, no advice. Don't worry, it's coming. No advice, no criticisms, no questions. The rest of the book of Job, they were not good friends. The first 7 days are amazing. After that, kind of fall off. But for 7 days, they just zip the old mouth shut, and they sit there with Job as he's kind of going through this stuff. Think about it. 7 days. I mean, this is a bad situation. Job doesn't even know what to, how do you even put words into a phrase on this thing? How do you even make words on this thing? Just, if you ever had something that bad happen, to where it's like there are no words that make sense. I learned something through other people's funerals. I guess you never learned from your own funeral. Anyways, but we're at a funeral one time, and I've told this 1,000 times, and I'll tell 1,000 times more because this made a big difference in my life. It was a pastor's wife who had died, and she wasn't well. So it wasn't like a huge surprise, but it was more unexpected than it should have been. And I remember the guy doing the service said, "Man, this sucks." And he said that 3 times. "Oh, this sucks." On the 3rd time, the guy whose wife died said, "Amen," because, it's like, it does. And then he got up to talk, and he said, "Guys, I appreciate that everybody loves me. But instead of coming up and saying, 'I'm sorry for your loss,' just tell us you love us." because it hurts, you know? Like sometimes less is more. That may be an opportunity you guys have in the near future. I mean, because I can see that coming. But the two words, and they're coarse words, but this sucks translates so well. And I've learned to say that when I'm talking to people at a funeral, like they're really hurting, and it's just a pressure relief. They're like, yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. And you don't have to say nothing else. They'll talk if they want to. And if they're not going to talk, they're not going to talk. When people are really hurting, when they've gone through all that bad stuff, they don't need your good advice. They just need you to shut up and be there. They need a hug, a handshake. They need somebody who cares. And I want to tell you something really odd, and this is going to cross what we've been taught in America. I know it does that. But people are more genuinely impacted by the fact that you take your time to spend with them. You bring them stuff, they don't care. You show them nifty things, they don't care. You tell them great antidotes. Everybody feels that silence in the room and you have to fill it with words. Don't fill it with words. Fill it with your presence. Job's friends were genius for the first 7 days. Of course, again, they fall off the wagon after the first 7 days. But the first 7 days, man, they nailed it. Just sit there with this guy. What do you say to him? Oh, this looks bad. Hello, Captain Obvious. I mean, think about it. What do you say to this guy? This is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Better not say that. That's probably going to take him over the edge. You know, just shut up. That's the best advice alive right there. So I'm telling you right now, if you feel compelled, you go to somebody and they're like, oh man, I'm having a hard time, and you feel like right now is the best time to tell them advice, you're so wrong, it's not funny. You may want to. I know I want to, and I know I do from time to time. I'm having to teach myself to shut up. Give him a hug. We love you, man. This sucks. I'm telling you right now, that's my go-to on funerals at this point, or memorial services or whatever like that, because it communicates the right thing. Because you don't understand what they're going through. These three had no idea what Job was going through. Oh, they think they do. You're going to see that didn't work out. But they had no idea what he was going through. They couldn't understand the pain level, the torture, the torment, the mental anguish, all that stuff. They just couldn't get their heads wrapped around it, because who could? It's a bad deal. Are we inspired yet? Are we happy yet? It's a tough time, no doubt. But you know what? It's going to get better. Listen, we serve God. We serve the Creator God, man. You can't get bigger than that. You can't get more powerful than that. And if God lets you go through a bad time and He's letting you go through it, not you're putting yourself there because you've done some stupid stuff, but God's allowing bad things to happen to you, know that God will restore you. What is that going to look like? Probably not what you think, but when you get through it, you'll appreciate it that much more. How do I know this? Because every time I've seen it happen, that's been the end result. We really appreciate what God's done. We appreciate the fact that, and so that goes so far. So let me encourage you with that. Things are bad sometimes. Are they bad sometimes? Yeah. Does it stuff hurt? Yeah, it does, 100%. But the Creator God has got it. If you belong to Jesus, and you're going to get to be in the presence of God one day. And so as bad as things get on this earth, and they get bad, don't they? They say, oh, no, they get bad. No, they do. But we got Jesus. So let's hold to that, shall we? Let's pray. Lord, we thank you this evening. We're thankful, Lord, that you have us, that you are in control, that even when our friends are idiots, Lord, you've got it covered. Lord, we thank you for the understanding things that we don't even come close to understanding, the compassion that you have for us, and how you reach into our lives and make all these things change and different. Lord, we need you. We need your wisdom, your ability, and Lord, we just ask that you would See us through this time. Help us to go through these things. Lord, as tough times come, and we know they will, give us your strength to carry us through, your wisdom, your might. Lord, we depend on you. We need you. Lord, we do thank you. We love and praise you and ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.